Pay close attention to this, because it might completely change the way you see someone in your life right now. Emotional manipulation doesn't show up screaming, threatening, or making everything obvious. In fact, it shows up quietly, disguised as care, as concern, sometimes even as love, and that's exactly why so many people get trapped without realizing it. Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling off? Like something wasn't right, but you couldn't explain why? Have you ever apologized, even though deep down you knew you didn't do anything wrong? Have you ever felt like you're trying way too hard to keep someone in your life, while they don't seem to be doing the same for you? If the answer is yes, then what you're about to hear might open your eyes in a way you can't unsee. Here are 6 clear signs you might be getting emotionally manipulated, and you may already be deeper in it than you think. The first sign is when you start doubting yourself. At the beginning, it's small things, almost unnoticeable. The person says things like you're overreacting. That's not what happened. You misunderstood everything. At first, you question it, but you still trust yourself. But over time, it keeps happening. Again and again, until something shifts inside you, you start hesitating before you speak. You start reviewing your own memories. You start feeling like maybe the problem is you. This has a name. It's called reality distortion. And when someone makes you doubt your own perception, they gain control. Because now, you don't even trust yourself anymore. The second sign is constant guilt. No matter what happens, you somehow end up being the one to blame, even when the other person is clearly wrong, hurts you, or crosses boundaries. The conversation flips, and you end up apologizing. You start thinking things like, maybe I overreacted. I could have said it differently. I should have been more understanding. Without realizing it, you take responsibility for things that were never yours. That's not emotional maturity. That's conditioning. Because as long as you feel guilty, you stay stuck trying to fix something you didn't break. The third sign is the confusing emotional cycle. The classic push and pull. One day, the person is amazing with you, attentive, present, intense, making you feel special, chosen, and the next day, everything changes. They become cold, distant, dry, acting like you don't matter, and that traps you, because you start chasing that good version of them, trying to figure out what you did to make them change. But here's the truth, most people take too long to accept. You didn't do anything. This cycle is created on purpose. It builds emotional dependency, because when something is unpredictable, your brain holds on even tighter, trying to get it back. The fourth sign is when your feelings are constantly invalidated. You try to open up, to explain what you feel, but you're never met with understanding. Instead, you hear things like you're too sensitive. This is drama. You make everything complicated. Over time, you start to shut down. You keep things to yourself, because it feels like nothing you say is taken seriously, and that's dangerous. Because you begin to disconnect from yourself, but never forget this. Just because someone doesn't validate your feelings, doesn't mean they're not real. The fifth sign is isolation, and it almost never happens directly. No one says stay away from everyone. Instead, it comes slowly, through comments. The person criticizes your friends, talks negatively about your family, makes you feel like no one understands you like they do. Sometimes, they even create situations that distance you from others. And before you realize it, you're alone. And at that point, that person becomes your only source of support. That's not accidental. It's strategy, because the more isolated you are, the harder it is to leave. And the sixth sign, maybe the most suffocating of all, is when you feel like you're constantly walking on eggshells. You think before you speak, measure every word, avoid certain topics, all to prevent a negative reaction. You start adapting, reshaping yourself, hiding parts of who you really are. And that's exhausting, because you're not being yourself. You're surviving inside the relationship, and living in constant fear of doing something wrong isn't love. It's emotional pressure. Now take a breath, because this next part matters. Emotional manipulation doesn't happen all at once. It builds slowly. One comment here, one guilt trip there, one moment of confusion, until before you know it, you're emotionally invested, trying to save something that was never healthy to begin with. And here's a hard truth, but a freeing one. People who emotionally manipulate rarely change just because you try harder. In fact, the more you try to please, understand, fix things, the more space you give that behavior to continue. If you recognized yourself in these signs, don't ignore it. That feeling in your chest, that constant doubt, that emotional exhaustion, that's not weakness. That's your mind trying to warn you. And maybe the most important question isn't why are they doing this, but why am I still accepting it? Because the moment you start seeing what's really happening, something shifts inside you. You begin to regain your clarity, your strength, your identity. And here's the part many people avoid, but it can change everything. You don't have to prove your worth to someone who has already chosen not to see it. You don't have to shrink yourself to keep someone in your life. And you definitely don't have to live in constant doubt just to avoid losing someone. Healthy relationships don't make you question who you are. They don't make you feel like you're not enough. They don't make you live in fear. They bring peace, clarity, security. So, if something inside you is telling you this isn't right, listen. Because in the end, the right person might challenge you, but they will never destroy you from the inside. And the moment you truly understand that, you'll never settle for less again.